Lucas Harwood had purchased Green Acres, a large modern house on the outskirts of a neighbouring village, when he'd retired and first moved to the area 6 years ago. Lucas had been something of a legend in the city, having inherited his father's modest construction company back in the 50s. The various booms since then had enabled him to build up Danelink into a very successful company. He had, of course, always intended to leave the company to his own sons, but things had not worked out that way. Now, as the big Rolls-Royce led the wedding procession through the village and onto the gravel-swept drive, he wondered how it could all have gone so wrong. Most of it, he was honest enough to admit to himself, was his own fault. When Fane had walked out all those years ago, Lucas had convinced himself that his son would eventually have to forgive him for the mistake he'd made, even so great a mistake. But 1 year had gone by, then 2, and Lucas had been forced to face the fact that the split was not going to be as temporary as he'd hoped. And so he'd followed Fane's progress at a distance, becoming as proud of his son and his accomplishments as any father could be. But Fane had never known that. Lucas had tried several times during the last 8 years to write to him, but had never been able to bring himself to post any of the letters. His sense of guilt had been insurmountable, but now he was running out of time, and Fane's unexpected appearance at the church, which could surely only be a good sign, had lifted his heart like nothing else could have. If only he'd been able to have a word with him then and there, but the photographer had been busy arranging them into various groups, and when he looked around, he hadn't been able to see his son anywhere. But now that Fane was here at last, surely they'd be able to sort things out. As for his eldest son, Lucas sighed deeply. He very much feared that he was lost forever. Alice, his first wife, had been so adamant that Lucas would never again be part of their lives. But under the circumstances, oh yes, he'd try again. He had nothing left to lose now. What a rotten husband he'd turned out to be, to both of his wives. He felt a hand touch his briefly, and he turned to look at his bride of only an hour. This, his third wife, would have nothing to complain of. This time he'd make sure of it. Keira smiled at him, no doubt wondering why he was looking so gloomy, and he felt himself smiling back. Keira had always been able to do that to him. She was so uncomplicated, so clear-sighted, so, well, Keira.